Coming to you live from Phoenix. I am here giving a speech for a corporate event on my book, Remember Me as Human, and what it can teach us about having conversations with each other before it's too late. How are you? I brought my angel cards. I take them with me everywhere I go. So before we get into today's episode, we must choose our angel card together. Everybody close your eyes. Bring your hearts together. Embrace each other. This is our shared vibe. Oh, I can feel the love. I can feel it. Here we go. Power. Power. And the little angel is holding like a scepter and a little ball with a cross on it. Like, what is that? That royalty hold it. The ball and the scepter thing. It's like a king or a queen. Well, as always, that is a perfect angel card for what's in store today, because power is a word I would use to describe our guest. I am so excited for this. Today on the show, I am honored that we have an actual rock star joining us. Jason Freese is one of my very best friends. He is a prolific musician, a multi-instrumentalist, a producer, a vocalist. He does it all. And he does it with the very best in the world. He's currently a member of Green Day, and he's also been a staple band member with the Goo Goo Dolls, Joe Walsh, as well as played on over 50 albums, including Avenge Sevenfold, the Vandals, NOFX, Weezer, Zebrahead, Death by Stereo, Dr. Dre, to name just a few. Like myself, Jason comes from a very musical family. His father, Stan Freese, was the band leader of the Disneyland Band for over 40 years. And his brother, Josh Freese, currently drums for the Foo Fighters. Now, Jason just hit the road again with Green Day for their world tour. But a few days before he did, he was generous enough to sit down and talk with me about a major event in his life, surviving lung cancer. You've most likely already been touched by Jason's music, but now you are going to get to know him on a deeper level. And I know your life will be changed, as mine was, from this conversation, as Jason takes us inside his personal near-death experience with cancer and shares with such vulnerability some of what it taught him about truly living. It was our first time seeing each other after his extraordinary recovery. And we didn't mean for our conversation to turn into a podcast episode, but as we spoke, if you're catching on by now, you know me. I can't help but record and capture and be the historian anytime I can with the human experience. And so I asked him if it would be okay if we recorded the conversation. And I thank Jason so deeply for trusting me and allowing me to bring this to you all. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, my incredible bestie, incredible musician, incredible man, Jason Freese. Just as we're sitting here talking, you just said the experience softened you in one aspect, and I'm asking you, what else have you noticed in life that your perspective is now shifted because of this experience of surviving the cancer?
I don't think that my views have changed. Everything has gotten magnified that I never gave energy towards before. Like, well, just being alive, right? I just kind of thought, of course I'm alive. Of course I'm living. Of course I'm going to live to be old. Of course I'll meet my grandkids. Of course, like, that was like a given. I just went through the day thinking that's what happens. You get older, you have, kids, they have kids, you become a grandpa, you get old and you die.
Yeah, we take a full lifetime for granted.
A full lifetime for granted. You kind of get that, well, not me, it wouldn't happen to me.
Right.
Other people get cancer. I don't get cancer. I got lung cancer. I didn't smoke. I was never a smoker, ever. I was never around it. You know, my dad smoked when I was a kid, but he never smoked in the house or in the car. Like one of my best friends, his mom and his grandma lived at his house, and they would sit in their living room and smoke 3 packs each a day in the living room with the drapes closed and the windows closed. And you would walk into that fucking house and it was so disgusting. It was the most disgusting. And I go, I could see him getting cancer, you know, from secondhand. But like,
of course he doesn't have
right,
it.
You know, he doesn't have it. No, of course I have it. That's what I'm talking about, right? Because then you sit there, you get in that frame of mind. Of course, not me. Like this wouldn't happen to me. This would happen to him. And then
I've done everything right.
I've done everything right.
We think that 2 + 2 = 4 in life, and that life is fair. And if we just do the right thing, it equals a reward.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You think that you know, stay the path, stay the course,
and that
everything works
makes
out.
Sense.
Yeah, but the math doesn't work. And come to find out that 20% of people get lung cancer are non-smokers, and there's not a lot of awareness to it. Breast cancer gets all the awareness, and then young children. Lung cancer gets no attention at all, and it's because people have this preconceived notion that lung cancer is for fat old men who are chain smokers.
Who did this to themselves.
Or the dude that worked in the asbestos factory. And people just think of that. Like, when you think of lung cancer, you go, that guy did it to himself. And it's not true. And I guess right now they're having an epidemic. They're having young Asian females, non-smokers, are getting lung cancer like insane right now.
You and I had that phone conversation.
Yeah.
When you told me what was going on.
Yeah.
And we laughed and cried.
Yeah.
And talked about how this puts everything into perspective immediately.
Yeah. I mean, like I would think of so many things that I never thought of before.
Like what?
The first thing is my kids. I never thought of what life would be like for my kids without a dad when they're little. I never thought that because I go, of course I'm going to be here. Of course I'm going to watch them grow old. And then they'll end up taking care of me someday. Or just throw me in the home.
Yeah.
But that was the first thing that I thought of, was my kids. And I got to be honest, it's really still the only thing that I think about a lot. My surgeon told me right away, and I know this is true because this is true in life, period. But he goes, you know, the difference between people that come out of this and win versus the people that battle this and lose is their mental attitude. And he goes,
100%.
He goes, you have to be positive. And he goes, do not go down a dark hole. Don't start looking on the internet about shit.
No.
He goes, live your life like a normal human being. Do the best that you can. Mm-hmm. Because I've been restricted physically because chemo was the worst out of all. Well, besides my week when I had my lung removed. But then once that week was over, I started recovering. Everything was fine. The chemo was just brutal because like it literally just poisons your entire body. So it poisons your good cells, your bad cells. Everything is poisoned. And it's like, you know, you go to visit an old person in the hospital and they're 95 years old and they're in the bed and everyone's gathered around them and they just have nothing left and they're just sitting there and everyone's holding their hand. And that's what it felt like. You have no will to carry on anymore. It's the worst feeling you've ever felt in your life. And you're so poisoned and you don't have the mental will, you don't have the physical will, you just lay in bed and you're poisoned. And that's what it does, right? So it kills everything and then they stop it and then they give you 2 weeks to build your immune back up. Then they kill everything and then they stop it and then it goes back up and then builds back up, and then they kill, and that's how they kill the cancer, right? But meanwhile, they're killing everything inside of you at the same time, everything. So you get so sick and it is a horrible feeling. Like horrible. Not like when I went to and I had my surgery and it was like, you have pneumonia and you're like, okay, and you fight through it, you get better and stuff like that.
Is it like it would be easier just to give in and leave your body than to try to come back?
So it's interesting that you say that because I've definitely been trying to find the silver lining in all of this, right? Because you just have to search for it, right? And so one of the amazing things that happened to me was I was at the car wash And after you drive through the car wash, then you can go into the place where you can vacuum your car and all that shit. I parked my car after the car wash and I was going to vacuum my truck. And all of a sudden, there's this girl next to me. She looked about 21, 22. And she had like a ski cap on. And she had ports on her arm. And I was like, oh, obviously she's going through treatment right now. And I didn't do anything. And I'm vacuuming my truck. And I'm just kind of thinking, and I go, I'm going to say something to her. And so I walk up to her. I go, you're going through treatment right now, yeah? And she kind of looked at me like really defensive because I don't look like I have cancer. Like, I didn't lose any weight. I didn't lose my hair. I didn't lose my eyebrows. I just look like a normal dude, right? Which we'll get into.
Why didn't you lose your hair?
We'll get that.
Okay.
Well, I did a long time ago.
That didn't even occur to me.
When I was like 19. Yeah, a different kind of chemo and radiation. And it depends also where they do it.
I want to hear more about that.
A lot of breast cancer will lose it. But the way that I did it and the chemo that I had didn't. But anyways, so I go, I'm going to say something to this girl. So I look at her and I go through treatment and she kind of looked at me and she was kind of defensive and I could tell she didn't want to talk about it. And then I am right now too. And I just had chemo that day. And I was about to go home and just turn off the lights and call it a day for 4 days in bed. So I was not feeling well. And she goes, you did? And I said, yeah, I just had it like, an hour and a half ago. And she goes, what kind of cancer do you have? And I said, lung cancer. And she's like, I have breast cancer. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. We start talking. It got so heavy. This girl is like, I don't have a reason to live anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I told my mom, I don't want to do this anymore because the chemo is so gnarly. I could tell she was really like having a go at it. And she goes, now because of the chemo radiation, they're saying I won't be able to have kids. And I wanted to be a mom. And she just starts crying. I'm in the fucking car wash with this stranger. And she's like crying, telling me that she doesn't want to live anymore and she can't have kids. I ended up like talking her off the ledge. And then I had to pick up my son at high school right after that. And then I was going to go home. And so I looked at my watch and I was like, oh shit, I got to go pick him up. But at this point, we'd been talking for over an hour. And she was like crying and like, I was like hugging her. She just kept on saying, thank you so much for talking to me. You have no idea what this means to me and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, there's been some pretty amazing silver linings to this entire thing. And part of it is just staying mentally super strong. Yeah. Because for me, it's been really rough. I mean, this entire thing has been one step forward, two steps back the entire way. Like, it was, you're a stage 1. And then they go, you're stage 3. And then they go, no, you're stage 1. And they go, nope, you're a stage 3. We had a celebration dinner that I got knocked back to stage 1. And then the next day, they told me I'm stage 3 again. And then I started doing the chemo and they go, now we got to add every day. So the chemo was once every 3 weeks. And now they're like, now every other day you have to do antibody therapy, which takes like 6 hours and gave me the worst acne, like my face.
So that's the time you should be recovering from the chemo, but now they're
but now I'm having to do this. And then my face, back, and my chest like broke out with such bad acne. And I've never had acne in my life. I had it so bad that I would wake up in the mornings and from my face, I would just have blood on my pillow. Wow. Like, it was fucked. And then they're like,
skin was just bleeding.
Just bleeding. Just that I have to take these bleach baths. They're like, go to Home Depot, buy a gallon of household bleach.
No way.
Yeah, and pour it in a bathtub and warm water and dilute it and lay in it. Because it was called bacterial acne and it was horrendous.
You are
the antibody
killing everything from the inside out, and then they're asking you to kill everything from the outside in with the bleach.
Yeah,
and your poor skin is
it was horrendous.
Absorbing everything.
It was so bad. So then I had
Did that burn your skin?
No, it didn't burn because you dilute it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not like, I mean,
How many
it's
times
strong.
did you have to do that?
I did it every other day for like 2 weeks. So then I had to do that. Then I had the surgery and I was supposed to be out in 3 days where they removed half of my lung. And then I found out that I have a pulmonary embolism in one lung and my leg, and then pneumonia in my other lung. And that turned into 8 days, and that was horrendous. I had to give blood like 3 times a day. And this one nurse put
on my arm a tourniquet to take my blood, and then my sleeve fell over it. She forgot about it, and I'm on fucking fentanyl. Like, I'm so high, right, because of the pain from having my lung removed. And 4 hours later, another nurse comes in, and she lifts up my sleeve to take more blood. She goes, I gotta give you a tourniquet. And she lifts up, she goes, oh my God. She's like, you have a tourniquet on. The girl fucking left a tourniquet on my arm, but I was so high that I didn't know because I'm on fentanyl.
Oh my God.
I know, it was horrendous. There was a couple things like that were, my epidural fell out for 15 hours that was supposed to be giving me all my pain medication right after my surgery. And I keep on telling my mom, I'm like, I'm in so much pain. Every time I hit that button, nothing's happening. 15 hours passed. And then finally I call in the pain management team, and they come and they look and they go, oh, your epidural fell out.
Oh my God.
Oh no. And then I think that I'm fucking done with everything. I have to do radiation, which was never part of the plan, for 25 sessions, which is a lot. I know I have 3 friends that have had radiation. One of them said they had 4. The other said they had like 5, and the other said they had 4. I had 25. And it was like everything has been 1 step forward, 5 steps back from the get-go. But I can't go down that rabbit hole. Like, I have to keep on going, okay, let's just go. Like, I don't want to wait. I don't want to talk about it. Let's just go. Like, I don't want to sit here and like go down this dark hole, because it'll be really easy to do.
The good thing is that's never been your personality anyway.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
You have never been one.
Yeah.
At least outwardly. I know we all have our inner demons.
Yeah,
of
no,
course.
I haven't.
It doesn't mean that you're...
I can compartmentalize really good, which is probably not good. But
in this case, it is.
Sometimes it's good.
Sometimes it's good.
Sometimes it's really bad, because I can really compartmentalize. Like, I can shut things off on a switch, and it is done.
Yeah, I mean, well, that gets us into talk about addiction, which is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But I have to say, for context, your surgery was only what? How long ago?
It was May 13th. So a month and 5 days ago. Oh wait, no, 2 months.
2 months.
2 months. 2 months. 2 months. 2 months.
So 2 months.
But like, I'm running my bike like 5 miles a day, every day. Like, I went to the beach yesterday. Like, I'm not, like, I'm up and going and going.
After your surgery, you sent me that video of you playing the saxophone.
That was like...
That was incredible.
That was like not even a week out of surgery.
You're like...
Yeah.
A monster here. I mean,
I just don't have... I can't go down
go down it.
I can't. Because I mean, you know me really well, but my personality is 1 or 11. There's no 5. There's not even a 10. I know people that have 5s all day. My mom has a 5 all day long. Like, my mom can just be a 5. And she can deal with the really angry people and the people that really need help, and she can make it all work. And she is so level-headed always, even when stuff is bonkers.
You're not a middle of the road
I'm
person.
not. I'm just zero until I hit a breaking point, and then I just shut things off.
Well, you're a really passionate person.
Yeah, which could be really good or bad.
And you care deeply about everything and everyone around you. And if you don't care deeply about it, you're not going to fuck with it.
Right. And I had to learn that, because I used to let that stuff, like little things, really bother me. And I used to really care. I would never say no to people ever, ever. And that became a problem. People pleasing? Yeah, that's a problem, because then there's no you, and there's just pleasing everyone else, even if you don't want to.
And you're depleted and exhausted and angry.
And then learning how to say no is a very awesome skill to have. But I didn't realize that. I thought you say no, you're letting people down. You're a dick. Yeah, you're a dick, or you're letting them down. Yeah. And I didn't realize there is a way to say, I can't do this right now, and have people understand and not get upset.
Absolutely.
You know, and guess what? Some people are gonna get upset, and whatever. That's your problem. Yeah. That's their deck of cards. You know, that was one of the biggest things I learned in AA, is that you can only control you, period. You can't control your husband, your wife, your kids, your parents, no one. And just go, I can't control this. I can't control him. I can't control her. And I can do me. And as long as I'm okay with me when I go to bed, sometimes, you know, people get bummed. But
People get...
you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
you know, you're not always gonna be making people happy. But as long as I know that I am doing what's right for me without hurting anyone,
That's right.
then I'm okay.
That's right. This
You know what
life
I mean?
is between you and you.
Yeah. Something might be a bummer.
Yeah.
There's bummers. Life's a bummer.
Yeah.
I look at it like this. It's like every day you get dealt a hand. Sometimes you get queen and an ace, king and ace. You get blackjack and you win the lottery. And sometimes your best friend dies in a car crash.
Yeah.
And when you wake up, you have this hand, and how you play that hand is up to you. There's a reason why the same people win the World Series of Poker every year. It's not because they're lucky. It's because they know how to play the hand. It's like, yeah, there's luck involved, but guess what? There's luck involved in life. You play that hand to the best of your ability, that's all you can do.
Yeah.
Or you can fold.
Yeah.
You have that option too. You can fold, and then you lose. I think that like kind of looking at life like that is a good way to look at it, because it's true. When you wake up, you don't know what the day's going to bring you. Life can change in 1 second.
Changes instantly.
Fuck, I got diagnosed with cancer on my birthday and I never smoked. You know, it was like, and the craziest thing about that was I found it on accident.
I know.
You know?
It
I didn't
was
have
a
any
miracle
symptoms.
how you
It was
found
a miracle.
it.
I literally had 0 symptoms. I've still had no symptoms. Well, now I do because I had half my lung removed. But I was on a ladder cleaning out my rain gutter, and I pulled a muscle, and it was in front of my heart, and I thought I was having a heart attack. Oh my gosh. I was like, I got kids. I'm like, I'm going to the ER. And I go in and they do all these scans on me, and they're like, well, you didn't have a heart attack. But they're like, we found this tiny speck on your lungs, though. Probably nothing. You probably had it since birth. Just keep an eye on it. So I go on this world tour. I come back 10 months later, and I go, you know, I'm going to go have that checked out again. So I check it out, and they're like, oh, that little speck is now bigger than a golf ball. And I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. And I go, well, what does that mean? And they're like, well, it's one of two things. You either have an infection or you have cancer. And I go, well, there's no way I have cancer. I go, there's just no way. That wasn't even an option. But then I started thinking about it, and I go, so I had this 10 months ago. What's the chances of having an infection for 10 months and there being no symptoms or anything? And the girl just looked at me, and she shakes her head, and she goes, not good. And I was like, oh, rad, so my option is cancer? And she's like, well, let's take a biopsy. So they took a biopsy, and sure as shit.
And you found that out on your birthday.
I found it on my birthday. My birthday.
And where did your mind go?
When she said it's cancer, it was like the room went boo, and I didn't hear a word she said after she said you have cancer. I couldn't tell you what she said at all.
How'd you get home?
I was with Amy. Amy's with me. And I was standing, we were just sitting there.
What was Amy's reaction?
Well, just devastated, but she's trying to be strong. And I was trying not to break down and freak out. So I was just blank.
You're both trying to be strong.
Yeah, I was just sitting here just blank, like, wow. It was almost just like funny. Like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. I have fucking cancer. Wow.
No, it's unbelievable.
And then you're like,
and
well,
that
what is this
denial
thing?
comes in as a stage of grief. Denial is a
Yeah.
real part of that to keep us distanced from what's happening.
Yeah, and my biggest thing also was I told only a few close friends. I didn't want to tell a lot of people. Like, still to this day, I've never touched social media on it or through my journey. Like, follow me on my journey. I'm like, nah. And it's not because I want people to think that, like, I'm a weak person, I'm sick. I just don't like pity, and I don't want to talk about it.
That's right.
And the reason why I don't want to talk about it is because the more you talk about it and people bring it up, the more you're like, oh, fuck yeah, that's right, I have cancer. And you're like, I just don't want to think about it. I just want to go with my day and jump in my truck and go do whatever, or go to the studio or practice and like a normal person and not think about it. But if I have a billion people calling me going, hey, how are you? Are you okay? Hi, how are you? Are you okay? If I get that from every angle, and it's like, I understand it's coming out of love and compassion, and I understand that, but I still don't want to hear it every day. So I really didn't tell. I mean, there's a lot of really close friends and family that still don't know. They're probably going to be hurt. Like, why didn't you tell me? And
well, that goes back to what you were saying about doing what's best for you.
Yeah.
It's not about them. It's about you.
It's not about them.
You're the only priority here.
Yeah.
And that's why you and I came up with the communication plan that we did.
Yeah.
Which was what?
Yeah. The eggplant. That's a perfect communication. Yeah.
So I said,
Yeah.
we're not going to talk about it. I'm not going to ask you for updates. I'm just going to text you an eggplant emoji. And if you...
And it makes me laugh every day.
And if you have an update for me, you'll tell me.
Yeah.
And that's
right.
That's really...
It's been amazing.
It's been incredible.
Right? Because it's like we had a full conversation without having to talk about cancer. You know what I mean?
Exactly, because that is just an aspect of your life. It's not, it doesn't define you.
No.
And it's not your entire existence.
And my doctor was like, he was like, a lot of people don't like to talk. He's like, are you ever going to tell people? My surgeon, I've become friends with him. He's a really cool guy. And he's like, are you going to tell people? And I go, yeah, I will. I go, I'm not there right now. And while I'm going through it, I really don't want to talk about it. And he said, yeah, he goes, it's interesting. A lot of people don't ever want to talk about it because they're like embarrassed about it, that they're weak or something. And I go, I don't have that at all. I don't care. People
you just don't want to think about it more than you have to.
Yeah, it's like I don't let people get into my head, for better or for worse. I also don't want to be reminded throughout the day, every day, because that's taxing.
Yeah, you're working hard as it is to just get through what you got to get through with the physical.
Yeah, we don't know where this is going to end up. I have 3 days left of radiation, and hopefully I'm done. They did say when you get back, we might do a few treatments of chemo, just almost preventative to kind of kill anything that's microscopic, that's lingering. But they said maybe we won't. And they also said maybe we'll do a few radiations. And they go, but maybe we won't. Instead of me for the next 8 weeks sitting there going, well, I might have to do radiation again. I might have to kill. I'm just like, whatever. Just like, let's just get through this thing. And when I told my kids that I got cancer, that was the worst day of my life.
I was going to ask.
That was the worst day of my life.
What was the
Because I wasn't going to...
I
I was very clear that I did not want to mask and fake what was going on, because they're older. My son's, one of them's 15 and the other one's 11, and the 11-year-old is super mature. And I go, they can handle it, and they need to know what's going on. And this is going to be a long fucking journey. Like a long journey. And they need to know what's going on.
Kids can handle a lot more than we give them credit for.
Yeah. And they've been amazing. I think that was the darkest that I got.
How did they react in that moment?
It was rough. It was tough. But everyone broke down. It was not good. But I was like, it's okay. I'm going to be fine. We're going to get through this. I was very, don't worry about this. And I've gone out of my way this entire time, even with the chemo, which was brutal. I can fake being tired with the radiation and stuff, and just be normal.
You're doing right now?
I'm not too tired yet.
Are you not allowed to have your Diet Coke anymore?
No, I do.
You do?
Oh yeah, that's like an addiction thing that will probably never go away. I know it's so bad for you. That's a whole nother thing, is trying to get into changing my lifestyle from everything from... I've learned so much about stuff that's so fucking bad for you. Like fluoride in toothpaste and it's in your water.
Our water's fucked.
Oh, I know. I drink that alkaline water now. That stuff.
Plastics. All our
plastics. Bounce dryer sheets. Oh, God, yeah. All that shit. The chemicals that go in your clothes and it sinks in your skin and your bloodstream. And
deodorants and
lotions and barbecues, carcinogens and
sunscreen.
Oh, yeah. So I've learned so much. And a lot of it all of it I can change, but some of it I choose to, and some of it I choose not to. And Diet Coke is one of the ones that
Fair enough.
I don't know if I'll ever kick Diet Coke. I mean, it's like you can't control the wind, but you can adjust the sails. Right? Yeah. It's like I can make some adjustments, and I think the funny thing is, I feel like I'm still, I don't want to say the beginning of it, but because I've been through so much. But I think if I'm like at a 5-year mark where, they say after 5 years, if you don't have any cancer, then you're, considered cancer-free. I think when I get to that point, I'll probably be able to chill out a little more.
Yeah.
But until then, I'm still like kind of, I don't want to say on edge. I'm mindful of my choices of bad food. And, I had Carl's Jr. yesterday. Every once in a while, it's okay. But I'm not going to do it every day.
Right.
I used to eat fast food like almost every day. But I also ate good here too, because we have like, this house is full of organic, shitty food.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, oh, how can you eat this? Like seaweed. And I'm like, this is disgusting. And now I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'm the one with cancer.
Yeah. You are in the thick of it. This is the beginning. It's a long road mentally and physically. Your body has been ravaged and it'll take time to heal. And mentally, it's still a shock.
Yeah.
You don't just digest that within 7 months, which it's been since you found out.
And I also think I get a little, maybe, I don't want to say pessimistic, but maybe a little pessimistic of the outcome, because I've had so many setbacks where I go, okay, I'm going to do this and then everything's good. And you do it and not everything's good. And then I'm going to do this and then we're all clear. And then you and I think I've had so many of those at this point that I'm just a little fuzzy on what is next. Where before I'd go, I'm done. I did chemo, I did radiation, I took out half of my lung, I'm done. That's what I used to think. And now I'm like, who knows what's in front of me?
Are you afraid to hope?
Yeah, kind of. To be really honest, I just try not to think about it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's a good trait or a bad trait. Just thinking that there could be more shit in front of me. And there's part of me that sits there and goes, you should be completely optimistic. And I'm done. And I beat it and blah, blah, blah. And you get that in your brain and you program yourself and you are manifesting that. And then there's part of me that goes, I've come to realize that's maybe not realistic. And now just kind of take it day by day, one day at a time.
Yeah.
Like, this whole thing's been one day at a time. The whole thing. Where before,
a minute at a time.
I kind of thought, well, the doctors say you do this, and then you do this, and then you're done.
They're the ones leaving shit in your arm by accident.
Oh, what about this? Oh, fuck yeah. Well, how about this? This was nuts. So, like, after my surgery, they gave me all this prescription pills, right? A lot. Like, fucking crazy shit. Like oxycodone and Xanax for relaxing and Ambien to sleep. And, like, it was crazy. I had so many fucking pills, muscle relaxers, and stuff that's, like, highly addictive and just fucks you up, right? And I was so fucked up on medication that I don't really like feeling out of control like that. And then a friend of mine, she was like, you just gotta get off of all of that and just start taking gummies. And you're gonna sleep, you're gonna have an appetite, and your inflammation's gonna go down, and you are gonna have less pain. And she goes, it was, when it was legal in California before for medicinal purposes, it was for cancer patients and glaucoma. That was why it was legalized on the medicinal tip before it became completely legal. And she's like, it's like, it works. So I go, okay. So I went off of everything. And I just started taking gummies, and within a day, everything was completely normal. So I go to tell my doctors this. And my doctor goes, oh, I noticed on your, I have an app on my phone. And he goes, I noticed on your app that you canceled all your prescriptions. And I go, yeah. And he goes, and your painkillers. And I go, yeah. And he goes, why? And he goes, that we're not very generous with that stuff. So, like, when we give it to you, like, you really need it. And I go, yeah, I just don't want to take that stuff. And I started taking gummies, and everything got better. And he goes, oh, that's good. And then he turns around and he grabs something in the cupboard and he goes, okay, so tomorrow I'm going to see you at 4:00 and blah, blah, blah. Did not want to talk about it.
Of course not.
At all.
Of course not. They're in bed with pharma.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I go, the gummies fixed everything. And he's like, he did not want to hear it. He literally just changed the subject as fast as he could.
What he meant to say was, Do you know how much we get paid to force you to take those, young man?
Oh, 100%.
I mean, why do we think marijuana's been fought against for so long?
Oh, yeah. It literally was a miracle cure. Like, it literally, like, everything changed.
And it helps you recover because you're in a clear mental state. You're not drugged up.
I was so high on, like, morphine and fentanyl and stuff in the hospital that the doctors would come in 5 times a day, right? Because I had cardiologist, pulmonologist, the surgeon, the nurses, you know, all these people, right? And they were coming in all day, every day. It was just a revolving door. And I would be so fucking high that every time they talked to me, I was just like staring straight through them. Thank God my mom stayed with me for a lot of the time I was there. My mom was like, would talk to the doctors and get the lowdown. And because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have grabbed onto one thing they said. And as you know, especially nowadays, big pharma and doctors, it's so corporate. You're a number, and you need to be your biggest advocate. Don't wait for them to do shit. You need to do it. You need to be proactive. You know what I mean? You have to fight for yourself, and you have to ask the questions. And you think that they have every T crossed and every I dotted, and they don't at all. And you could be a doctor that you really like, but guess what? You're one of his 30 patients he's seeing that day. So he's not invested into you like you think he is. He's just like looking at your vitals. Okay, cool. All right, you seem to be doing okay. All right, and he's out the door and he's on to the next patient. But you have questions and you need to know certain things. And it was obvious at the beginning that it was like, even doctors that you like, that you think have great bedside manner and all that stuff, you're still a number.
Yeah.
And it's your life. This is not like, am I going to get good parking at the concert? Like, no, this is your life. And you have to ask the right questions.
Yeah, we had to pull my grandma back from the abyss because they had her so drugged up in the nursing home that she said she wanted to run out into the road and get hit by a car.
Oh, yeah.
And that wasn't her.
Yeah.
And my mom had to go in and order everything to be stopped and fix it because...
Yeah. You see?
I mean, just throw them in there and drug them up and then they're easy to handle and that's it.
Yeah.
And that's what they're getting paid to do.
Yeah.
So that's really good advice to people, to be in charge of what's happening to you.
Yeah. You have to stay sharp. They say you can either be the tip of the spear or shark shit in the bottom of the ocean. It's like, which one do you want to be? It's like, you have a choice. Don't wait for people. That's kind of hard for me too, because I always kind of lay in the background.
You don't get involved until you have to.
I don't get involved until I have to. So when I have to, it's not very comfortable for me. I'm not a person that asks a ton of questions and gets involved, filing away all the papers in the cabinet and alphabetically. And it's like, I'm just not that person. So it's been kind of hard. But I've also had people helping me. My mom and Amy have helped a ton. I had 2 buddies sleep over because I had someone who would sleep with me every night because of that. Because at 3 a.m, when I'm on morphine and people come in saying stuff or doing stuff and I'm drugged up, like, there needs to be someone coherent that cares about me in that room, that's watching everything and is taking notes of what's happening, instead of just having 30 nurses and doctors come through while I'm on fentanyl.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So we made sure I had someone with me 24 hours from the second I got in there to when I left. And I had a couple buddies. I had 2 of my buddies sleep over, and it was crazy.
It's so important. I'm so glad you did that.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to.
Do you think that going through this now has given you that new awareness and importance of that for the next 50 years of your life? Do you think you'll operate a bit more?
To a certain degree, 100%, yes. To a certain degree.
I'm still who I am.
I'm still who I am, but I understand the game a lot more now, and I'm more mindful of things. You know what else I was mindful of? Like, kind of a silver lining that this brought on was I didn't lose any weight. Before the antibody therapy, I didn't have acne, and I looked just like a normal human being, right?
I wouldn't say you've ever looked normal, but
in relationship, I didn't lose my eyebrows, I didn't lose my eyelashes, and I just kind of looked like a Joe Blow, right? And I remember being so sick.
I only lost my pubes.
Yeah. I didn't lose my pubes. I totally didn't lose my pubes. I just shaved those. I remember being in Chipotle and being really sick. Chemo. Like really sick. Like super sick. I was...
How did you make it to Chipotle? What do you mean you were out in public?
So I would have chemo once every 3 weeks. It was getting midway through. I was like, okay, I think I can get up.
Yeah.
And I just have to get out of the fucking house. I need sunshine on my face.
Yeah, you're just trying to just feel human.
Yeah, I need to breathe fresh air. And so I was like, I'm gonna go to Chipotle. So,
and I need a burrito.
and I need my fucking chicken bowl. And so I go there and I'm in line and it's the lunch rush. And I realize I'm over my head and I shouldn't be there because I'm sick and I'm tired, but I look normal. And I was sitting in line and there was maybe 10, 12 people in line too. And I realized that you don't ever know what someone's going through that's next to you. Driving next to you on the freeway, next to you in line at Target or Walmart or Starbucks, in a drive-thru at In-N-Out, the guy in front of you, the guy behind you, you don't ever know what they're going through. And that lunch at Chipotle really changed me.
Wow.
Because I was so sick, yet I looked just like this.
Yeah.
And I was standing there waiting like everyone else for a fucking burrito.
Blending in.
It didn't look weird, didn't have no legs, and I was not a beacon flashing of like, oh, this guy's sick. Like weighs 80 pounds and has no eyelashes. Like, no, I was just completely normal, but yet I was going through so much treatment and chemo and I was so sick. And I just remember at that moment going, oh, okay, like I have to treat people totally differently now. Not like I was an asshole to people to begin with, but I'm going to be so much more sensitive to when people are freaking out. This guy just might be a fucking asshole. Or I don't know what this guy's going through,
Yeah.
Because I was looking around, almost laughing. I remember thinking, going, if everyone in this line could switch with me right now for 5 seconds just to see what I was feeling,
Wow.
it would be pretty insane. They would be like, oh my God, are you okay? Oh my God, you know what I mean? Like, because I was so sick and I needed help and I shouldn't have been there and I shouldn't have been driving and I remember getting the food and sitting down and my esophagus was all closed up from the chemo. And I just remember getting a bite of food and I had only been eating like applesauce and like fucking yogurt for 2 weeks because that's all I could get down. And I'm finally eating this burrito bowl, and I remember taking the first bite and going, oh, this is going to be a long day. And so I sat there, I'm just by myself. And then 3 minutes later, I take another bite. And then it took me, I was at Chipotle for fucking over an hour.
So that's what you said to me earlier, is that everything feels like slow motion.
Yeah, well, yeah, with the eating stuff, yeah. Well, when the chemo, it would shrink your esophagus so the food would just get stuck and it wouldn't go down, so you would just throw it up. Now, with the radiation, I'm not quite sure what it's doing to it, but everything, including water, where my water would go down easily. With the chemo, with the radiation, everything is just really slow. It's just like slow motion, but it goes down. With the chemo, it wouldn't go down. It would go halfway down, and then stick, and then have to come back up. Where I haven't thrown up with radiation. Where the chemo, I threw up a lot. Like I was throwing up 3 days a week. Yeah. Just be somewhere and be like, oh, fuck, here we go. Like, and you know it too. You're past the point of no return. I was trying not to go there and be like, no, it's like, I can make this. Close your eyes, fight through it. I remember being at Panda Express.
Who goes to Panda Express?
Right here. It's the worst food ever, and it is so good. So I'm at Panda Express, and I take a bite, and I realize I'm fucked, and everyone's eating, and I stand up in Panda Express, and I just start jumping up and down, pounding my chest, trying to get the food to go down. and everyone's looking. I'm by myself. Everyone's looking at me. It would get to the point of no return. It would be like, it would get caught and you know you're done. It's going to have to come up. And so you just have to figure out, where am I going to throw up?
Yeah.
You know, that was horrible.
How would you describe the sickness? Because you keep saying, I felt so sick with the chemo.
Well, it's been different. Is
it like a flu or
no, I can't
just
explain
nausea?
It. You know,
or
well, okay, so the chemo...
like that poison you described.
That's the chemo. Dude, radiation just makes you tired.
But that laying in bed feeling poisoned that you described, what is it? Does it hurt?
This is no.
Is it muscle pain? Is it burning? Is it...
It's a feeling that I've never had in my entire life, and I hope you never have it either, where I explain it like this. Like, I love watching the murder mystery documentaries that are on the smut shitty TV, the Forensic Files, and then my favorite one is the First 48. Like, I just
it's so good.
I love these shows.
First
right?
48 so good.
But Forensic Files, through the last 20 years,
I can't watch them anymore, but...
You can't?
No.
Yeah.
I hit a wall a couple years ago, and I was like, and I can't do violence anymore. Okay.
It's funny, I'm the same way, except for I find the solving the crimes very interesting.
Yeah.
Like, how are they going to catch this guy?
Yeah.
And then I love watching them being interrogated.
The psychology
of it. Like, that's very
I
interesting.
just can't do the violence.
Yeah, I'm like that. I was like that with like Dexter and Breaking Bad and all that stuff. I got like a season into both of those, and every season someone's getting murdered or shit is going really bad, and then I would try and go to bed and I would just feel horrible.
I know.
And I'm like, I can't watch Dexter. I can't watch Breaking Bad. I can't watch those shows because at night when I'm going to bed, the last thing I see is some dude getting tortured and murdered in Dexter, or these guys, you know, making meth and people are trying to kill him. And I'm just like, I can't do this before bed anymore.
People don't think the news is in that category. But
oh,
it is.
The news is worse than all of it. I haven't watched 2 through 13, channels 2 through 13 in, no kidding, 15 years. I only watch National Geographic and like Discovery Channel. That's all I watch.
That's all you need to know.
Yeah, and YouTube.
Anyway, back to what I asked you.
So, Forensic Files. I've watched 10,000 where it's like the wife's killing the husband for his life insurance. The business partner is killing his business partner to take over the company, whatever. And I've seen this so many times it makes me laugh, is where they do it with antifreeze, right? And they just put a little bit, because it's like sweet like sugar. And back in the day, they didn't have a lot of testing in the 80s, 70s, and 80s. And they just like, every morning they put a little bit of antifreeze in the drink, and the person just accumulatively gets sicker and sicker and sicker and then dies, right? And that's what it was like. I go, this is like, it's the poisoning. You have been so poisoned. I go, I feel like I know what those people went through, because I've never, and you've never been poisoned where all of your white blood cells are destroyed. That's what helps you get better. When you get the flu, when you get a cold, white blood cells fight and they get you better, right? That's how you heal. Well, when the chemo kills the white blood cells, feel like you're an inch from death. And you can feel that you're not healing. The top of your head to the tips of your toes, you are completely poisoned. And like I said earlier, you lose all will, physically and mentally. It's a horrible feeling.
So spiritually, you must be aware that something is different that you've never dealt with before in the sensations that are going on. It sounds like...
It's like a feeling I'd never felt in my life. Ever. I mean, I've had the flu 1,000 times, right? We've all had the flu, 103, 104 fever and the chills.
That's what I've always thought it would be compared to.
It's not.
But you're saying it's a whole nother...
It's totally different. You don't have the energy to even try and fight. Like, you're like dying. They literally, they're bringing you an inch from death, and then you heal for 3 weeks, and they're bringing you an inch from death, and then you heal for 3 weeks, and that's how you kill your cancer. It just kills everything in you. But those first couple days, so this is what happens. They give you steroids the day before chemo, the day of chemo, and the day after chemo. And then when the steroids are done and you're not taking steroids anymore, it's hell. It's fucking hell.
Right, because the steroids keep you kind of floating.
They make you strong. Right. They pump you up. And then I was getting this thing. It was the most painful shot I've ever had in my life, and I'd have to get it every time I get chemo. It's a shot to make your body, your bone marrow, produce white blood cells because the chemo's killed it. So now they give you this shot, and I took a picture of it. It's the gnarliest needle, and it's spring loaded because it goes into your bone.
Spring loaded?
There's a full spring around it. It's gnarly. I don't know what the spring does. I don't know if that's for the medicine or it didn't like inject like a shot, like a boom. It was so painful.
How big's the actual needle?
The needle's huge. That's painful, but that's not the problem. The problem is that your bone marrow is now on overdrive.
It puts inside you.
Making white blood cells, and a lot of people get adverse effects, and I got lower back bone pain that was, I'm going to say, probably the worst thing I've ever been through in my life. I couldn't sit down, I couldn't stand up, I couldn't lie down. One night, the pain was, I was like, I got to go to the hospital, and I had like 3 friends over, and they're like, you can't go to the hospital, that's the worst place for you to be. They're just going to give you morphine or something for the pain. They're not going to fix it. And the last place you need to be right now with your immune system down from chemo is a fucking emergency room. And I was like, yeah, you're right. So then I ended up taking a whole bunch of gummies and it went away.
Oh!
Yeah. Is that fucking crazy?
Wow.
Yeah. Gummies have like saved my whole cancer journey. There's been so many lessons. It's funny, it's like a lot of it, like I kind of feel lucky, you know? It's kind of morbid to say, but there's been so many good takeaways from it, and a reality check of health. I'll go to Panda Express a lot less, you know?
I'm gonna
be
strangle you.
I was gonna ask after we're done with this, do you want to go to Chipotle? Check down the street.
Aren't you in a Del Taco mood?
No, I don't do that anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I will draw the line.
You draw the line at Del Taco.
Del Taco's line.
Okay. It's like, have you seen the movie Chocolat?
No.
Oh, well, there's a woman in there and she has diabetes, but she refuses, and she's going to die from it, but she refuses to give up her chocolate because it makes her happy.
Right.
And she eats it till the end, and she doesn't regret a thing, and she's like, fuck you guys, I'm doing what I want,
Right, that's pretty much
You got to have your pleasures in life.
I think there's a fine line of abusing it, I don't go to those places like I used to. I make a lot better. I'll tell you what, one thing that I really stay away from, besides last night when I went to bed and ate ice cream, was I stay away from processed sugar.
Yes,
because it's
I do too.
Really bad. I used to eat...
Talk about poison.
The worst. Probably the worst out of all of it, to be honest.
It is.
And I've done a lot of investigating with this whole cancer thing, with natural remedies, like Dirk Benedict, fixing things from the inside through diet. Processed granulated sugar is at the top of the list, number one. Yeah. Like number one.
They are now discovering that Alzheimer's is a form of diabetes of the brain.
Really? I there's a great Joe Rogan podcast of this guy, Matthew Walker. He's this British guy, and he's the foremost leading expert on sleep. And if you ever
I've heard it.
It's the most unbelievable thing, but he talks about heavy in this interview the correlation of the lack of sleep in Alzheimer's. And he said that in the 80s, Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher used to always joke around that I only need 3 hours of sleep, and then the other one would go, I only need 2 hours of sleep. Oh, I only need an hour and a half of sleep, and blah, blah. And they both got insane dementia and Alzheimer's, both of them. And he goes, that's not a coincidence. Sleep's important.
Yeah, people wear their lack of sleep as a badge of honor.
Not only that, but people like my mom can get 3 hours of sleep and pop up. And I know other people in my band that can do it. No sleep and pop up and go play 18 holes of golf.
Yeah.
He goes deep into that. And he said, there is no one that can function on little sleep. He goes, there are people that have an exuberant amount of energy, more so than maybe you and I. I need 8 hours every day. If I get 7, I'm okay. If I get 6, there's problems.
What have you been doing right now?
About 7 to 8. But he goes deep into that, and he says you need 8 hours of sleep every day, period. 3 hours at night and a 4-hour nap during the day is not the same. He goes, it's not working. He goes, you do not ever get an REM when you take your nap during the day. And he goes, you need REM. People, he goes, and your body is taking tabs. It's like the guy chalking, slates on the wall in prison of how many days he's been there. It's like your body's doing that, and it knows how much you've had and how much you haven't had. And he goes, and when you lose sleep, you never get it back. He goes, it's permanent.
Can't make it up.
Can't make it up. You can never make it up. And,
Yikes.
And
That's
he's
good
like,
to know.
Oh yeah. He goes pretty heavy into alcohol where people pass out, sleep, and he goes, that's not sleep at all. He's like, you never go to REM when you're drunk, ever, ever. He goes, you pass out, you sleep for 9 hours, 10 hours. He goes, but your body never
you're
goes
not
to
resting.
REM. You're never resting. He goes, it's like sleeping with the TV on full blast in your bedroom, and you're sleeping, but you're still listening to that TV that's on full.
Yeah. So you're saying you've learned so many lessons about health that will lead to a healthier lifestyle after this.
And you know what? Like I said, I'm not going to be Mother Teresa and live this insane.
No, of course not.
But I'm able to chip away enough where I think if I do that and I don't eat all the sugar like I used to, and I don't eat out fast foods as much as I used to, and
you're sober now.
I'm sober, and I have toothpaste without fluoride and drink alkaline water. Tiny little decisions that really are not big decisions, but when they all add up, and that if that can help add up to this not coming back, then I'm okay with having shitty tasting toothpaste.
That's great advice to pass along.
Yeah.
You're right. It's not a mountain. We don't climb the mountain. You take one little step, and it's all these tiny little things that we can implement on a daily basis, and it doesn't have to be all at once. It can be one at a time, and that leads to a healthier state of being physically and mentally, because mental is a huge factor in physical well-being. Huge. Like you said at the beginning.
I had this epiphany. I was watching a video on Instagram of this kid skateboarding, and it was like right when I got diagnosed, and it made me realize how important mental health is. I'm watching this kid, and he's at a high school, and he just starts pedaling, he's hauling ass, and he ollies off the top of a staircase, and he's going to do a rail slide all the way down the handrail to the bottom of it's 25 stairs or whatever, right? Well, he does it, and then at the very end, his board gets locked up on the railing, and the dude, this kid, he didn't die, but this kid got really hurt, right? And my body, when I watched him crash, my body did this tense, horrible feeling, like this shock that went through from my toes to the top of my head. Like it was just like I was violently sick for 1 second. But it made me realize, wait, hold on. If I could watch something bad and have something so horrible internally happen to me, then you can do the opposite. That was really big for me.
Wow.
By looking at something and thinking a thought, if I can do that for the bad, I can do that for the good.
Yeah.
So when I go to radiation, I do a lot of visualization stuff.
Yeah.
Because those machines go over you, and it's so intimidating. These gnarly machines are around you, and they're, The first day I went, it really made me uneasy. I didn't like it. And then I went, hold on. If I can flip this around and close my eyes and think that when these machines are going over me, I think of this glowing light going through my body, and it's healing everything, and it's healing getting rid of all the bad cells, and I'm just creative visualization. I'm visualizing that this, it's like a sphere almost of warm light is going through my whole body. And I changed it from being scared and being horrified of this big machine that's putting radiation into me, really at the end of the day, which is fucking gnarly. I switched it. I did a 180, and now every time it goes over me, I just feel this glowing light, healing my body. And that's how I do radiation every day now. It's those are the things that I think help you pull through. If you don't do that stuff, and you do the opposite, it can get really dark. And it does for people.
This is really interesting to hear you say this because it's a concept I have, and I haven't experienced something as intense as what you're going through. So it means a lot to hear it in action when it is a life or death situation.
Yeah.
Everything that we experience in this life is meant to be a positive, even cancer.
Right.
Jane Fonda talked about having breast cancer, and I never forgot her interview because she spoke about it the way you're speaking about it. She said, I'm grateful that I'm going through this.
Yeah.
I feel privileged to be in this club of women who experience life from this aspect. And she's gone on to survive it, you know, and she was talking about how grateful she was and how interested she is in this experience and all the lessons she's gotten from it that are fascinating to her.
Yeah.
I'm so in awe of that. It's one thing to believe that, and then when push comes to shove, to be able to actually implement that, like you just described, turning that scary experience into a beautiful experience, transforming that for yourself. It makes me think of Passover in Judaism. I love the Jewish holidays. They're so meaningful and symbolic and just beautiful. And I got to be a part of Passover dinner one year. Like, you know, the whole 4, 5, 6 hour thing where you're going through all the steps. And my favorite step was you have to, I don't know if you've ever done one.
Is it when you get to eat? It's
not fast food, you know, it's not, it's like boring organic food. You wouldn't be interested, but they make you take a whole mouthful of horseradish, raw horseradish, which is painful to eat. It's actually painful.
And what's the point of that?
The point is that you have to chew it until it becomes sweet.
I have all these lines that I can't do right now. Okay. Yeah, okay. So then you just chew it.
Do them all.
Okay. Like,
you have to chew it until it becomes sweet. And
does it?
It does. I was with my teacher who was guiding me through the night, and he tricked me, and I thought he was giving me like the stuff that helps it not be so spicy. But he was actually giving me like a huge mouthful of horseradish. Hold your jokes.
Okay.
I was in tears. I was crying. I was in physical pain. I wanted to throw up because your body just reacts and is like rejecting it, and the spit's going down your throat, and it's really a painful experience. But at a certain point, it became sweet, and I think of that so often for so many things that are painful and that are scary because trauma is not some big happening in your life. It happens in the smallest ways all along the way.
And I think also everything's temporary. I mean, life's temporary, right?
Everything's temporary.
Everything's temporary.
What a relief.
Yeah. Once you figure that out and realize that pain is temporary, happiness is temporary.
Yes, it is.
And it's how you navigate life.
And this life with these loved ones in this body as Jason and Lucy is temporary. And I'm really coming to terms with that because I'm very terrified of death. I think we all are.
I'm not okay with death right now. I'm like, I think it's because I have little kids. That's where I'm not okay with it. And because I feel like I'm doing really well right now. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm not having to deal with I'm dying right now, like, because I'm not. They took out my tumor, the cancer, you know, I think it's completely gone. I would be lying to say that I haven't thought of it through the last 7 months of getting diagnosed and going through all this stuff, because you at some point you go, where is this going to land? Yeah, I'm not okay with it right now. Like, I have a lot of living to do. I want to see my kids grow up. You know, that's, like, for me, that's the biggest thing. Like, I just want to see my kids grow up. Like, I think of what their life would be like if I wasn't here at this age. It would be rough. Because I know a lot of people who lost their dad when they were very young. And as much as they're normal functioning people, I know it has taken a massive toll on them. Like a massive, massive, massive toll. I don't want that for my kids, you know? Mm-hmm. So I honestly can say this from the bottom of my heart. If I didn't have kids, I'd be like, whatever, wherever the wind takes you. You know what I mean? It's like, I've had a fucking great life. I've played Wembley Stadium, sold out. I've flown in private jets. I've partied harder than a lot of people. Not more than your dad, but
you've done what you love.
I've done what I love, and I've done. You know, I remember when I got sober, I had a friend of mine who will be nameless.
We name. You've been really good about not naming any names.
But he said to me, because at the time he was sober, he said, you know, a lot of people that get sober get bitter because they never got to really do it. They never got to sow their wild oats. And he goes, you can never say that, dude. He's like, we have partied so hard and we have lived such an insane life, and that can never be one of your excuses that you never got to do it, because you did get to do it. You got to do the private jets and the play stadiums and party on other people's dimes to the utmost and see the world. I've been to 30 countries. You can never use that as your excuse. And I always remembered that. And then, you know, another one that I always remember, it's just funny because your dad said something to me that I never forgot because it was so great. When I was getting sober, I didn't really want to tell anyone because I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to do it. And I didn't think that I could stop drinking. And so I didn't tell a lot of people at all at the beginning. I was like, I'm going to wait till like 6 months. And if I can make it to 6 months, then I'll start telling people, like my dad, who had 25 years in the program and stuff like that. Your dad was the one that helped me at the beginning, and I was in Australia when I got sober, and your dad was in Europe on tour, and he said, hey, he goes, we're going to go out to dinner next week when you get home and I'm home. But until then, you got to try and not drink. And then he said this to me, and I swear to you, to this day, I still think of it, and it's amazing because it's funny and it's very true. He said, if you feel like you're going to drink, I don't care what time of the day it is, you call me. And before you call me, if you think that the reason why you're going to drink right now is good enough that I wouldn't do it, he's like, if you call and say, I feel like I'm going to drink, I'm just really stressed out right now. He goes, I'll drink with you if your reason is good enough. He goes, so when you start to think that you're going to drink, think of the reason why you're going to drink, and then think about calling me and think that when you tell me why you're going to drink, that I'm going to come out of my 20-something years of sobriety and drink with you. If it's that good of a reason, if it's not good enough of a reason and you don't think that I'll drink with you, then don't drink. And I never forgot that. And so, you know, through the years, like if something's been tough or whatever, I go, if I were to call Joe right now, would he drink with me right now? I go, no fucking way. So, all right, I'm not going to drink. Like, that stuck with me forever.
That's beautiful.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, you're both incredible men that so deserve sobriety and sanity and health and happiness, as fleeting as happiness is. Just whatever moments we can find in this life is what it's all about.
I know.
You have been in my life since I was a teenager.
Yeah.
When I was in love with you when I was 15 or whatever.
Oh, you were 15, huh?
Oh, yeah, I was 15.
Oh,
and
God.
You and your bandmates were bad influences. No, you weren't. You were always protective.
Probably were.
But you are family, and
I love you.
I love you too. And you're right. You're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. And
whether you like it or not.
Yeah, you're not going anywhere. You are meant to go through this. You know, that's a weird thing. People say, oh, everything's meant to be. I don't know. I've always struggled with that. To me...
This is my first tattoo I ever got. And it says, what is truth in Latin? Because, you know what? No one ever knows the truth. No one.
No one.
No one. There's not a person on this planet that knows the truth. And it's like, what is truth? You're like, was it meant to be? I don't know. Maybe
That's
it was.
right.
Maybe it is. maybe it's not.
I don't think anything has meaning until we give it meaning,
That's
whatever
exactly right.
we decide that meaning is going to be. And that goes back to what you're saying, is that you're in charge of your mental state. You can't change the wind, but you can adjust your sails. And I think there's a lot of meaning in this, not only for you, but in everyone around you who loves you. And that goes out to infinity, because we talk about
infinity
it.
and beyond.
Infinity and beyond. For me, this has been a huge event in my life, whether you know it or not. From that day that you shared the news with me, things immediately it changed for me and came into focus and exploded into my life because of what you're going through. So it's not just one person, but the lessons go out to everyone in the situation. And for me, these last 4 months, whatever, that you shared this with me, have been much different because of it. Because I'm so connected to your heart, and so for me, it's a near-death experience as well. I'm not saying that like I'm going through this, it's so hard for me, but because my heart is with you, and so focused on what you're going through, and you go through all those thoughts of like, I want to take this away from them, and I want to fix this for them, and I can't. And it's something I've learned a lot about.
You feel
holding
sometimes.
Space for somebody who's going through something without being able to fix it for them is okay. It's got to be okay, because that's all we can do. It makes things fall away that are unimportant. It really makes everything go away except what is priority. You don't have time for anything else.
No. It's been a hard thing for me in this entire thing has been accepting help. People want to help. I had a whole bunch of friends from high school want to start a food train where people would make us dinners while I was going through chemo and stuff, because there's like Amy's teaching, the kids are in school, I'm in chemo. It was chaotic. It was hell. And at the beginning I said no. My friend Laura was like, I really want to start this food train thing for you. And I've known her since kindergarten. But she goes, I really want to get this going, and I know there's a lot of people that really want to help, and they don't know how, and this would be a great way. They can make your family and you a meal and just drop it off, and they leave. And you don't have to talk to them, and blah, blah, blah. You put a cooler out front of your front door, they put the meal in the cooler, and they're gone. You don't even see them. I was like, it's all right. I don't need the help. And then as time progressed, and it got gnarlier and gnarlier and gnarlier, she asked again. She goes, I really want to do this. And I went, you know what? Okay. And I felt weird, but I just had to accept. The way she said it, she goes, it's not all about you. People really want to help you. People love you, and people want to help, and they don't know how to help. And if you let them do this, you're going to help them because they want to help you. And they also don't want to call you and bug you and talk to you, and they want you to go through what you need to be going through, but they want to help. And they ask me all the time, like, does Jason need anything? Like, what can we do? And she's like, let's just do this. And so I was like, okay. So we did it, and it was amazing. And what was really amazing is that when I was in the hospital, and Amy and the kids, Amy's teaching, and the kids are going through stuff, and it's just chaotic. And she had no time to cook or do anything, and then she's going to the hospital during the days and seeing me and blah blah blah. And it got to the point where it helped them so much. But accepting help has been something for me that I have a hard time with. That I just get uncomfortable with people like, how can I help you? I'm like, I'm good, and I am. I'm pretty self-sufficient as a person, good or bad. It might not be a good trait, but it's like, if I need something, I'll do it.
This is a much larger conversation about where that comes from in childhood. Taking
I think
care
a lot
of
of it too was my dad didn't know how to fix anything.
Well, he's a musician.
He's a musician, exactly. So am I. You know what I mean? But I was very interested, and I would see friends of mine whose dads would pull apart a transmission of a car and build a hot rod in their garage. And I was always like, like, I was very interested in that. I was like, wow, how did you do that? Like, what are you doing? And this is before YouTube and Google, right? Where, like, you literally, the only way you
go to
learned
the library to figure
was
it
going
out.
to the library or an encyclopedia or watching someone. You know, or now you can learn anything online, right?
So you trained yourself to be so self-sufficient, and then what happens is we get to a point where
too self-sufficient.
you become too self-sufficient, and
You don't want help.
your friend was right. She said this is not about just you, and that's, like you said, what the important thing is to remember, that when you allow others to share, you're sharing, because you're giving them the opportunity that you also like having. And I gotta say, I have to say this properly, you have always been a rock for me. You have given me so much emotionally in my music. You were the one that recorded my first demos with me.
Yeah, I remember.
And you've continued to record my music with me and guide me. And you're an incredibly successful musician and someone I've always aspired to. You've always looked out for me. You are pure generosity. You have the most generous heart, and you just do it without thinking for everyone around you. So now all of us who love you are here for you and want to give that back, but it is hard, like you said, when somebody is going through something, to know where to draw the line, because you don't want to bother them. You don't want to be showing up. I've almost showed up at your house like 10 times because I've kept checking in with you and kept asking to come over and kept asking to see you and kept saying, don't wait for a day you feel good. Like, I want to be there for you so that
I know, you've been amazing.
You can
even when you asked it, you're like, I'll go to
crumble.
radiation with you, and I was like, no. I was like, I don't want to bother you with, you know what I mean? It's just like, no, you've been so amazing. And then there's me going, no.
Yeah, I know, but it's okay, because all you can do as the person who loves you is just keep checking in.
Yeah.
Just keep sending the eggplant emoji.
Yeah. Like I said, like, I'm very strong-willed and I'm very stubborn. And when I wake up every day, I just forge ahead, and I don't ever think about help. It's not in my DNA.
It's a decision you made as a child, and it's serving you well now because it's what's gotten you through.
Yeah. It does serve me well. And then also at the same time, there's times where there's like learning lessons where you're like, okay, I'll take the help. I'll take the meal train.
How great did it feel?
It was amazing.
Yes.
It helped us out so much.
Yeah. Look at all these gorgeous gifts that have come from this and that you'll take with you,
know,
the rest of your life.
I'll tell you another thing that I've found through this entire thing that I feel is a very good lesson. And that is, and you're a great example of it, by the way. Not a lot of people do this. And I took note to this right away when I started getting sick. A lot of people will text you and be like, hey, let me know if I can do anything for you. And then that's it, right? And you're like, okay, great. And that's very nice. It's very kind, right? But then there are the people that just do it for you. They're like, no, I'm coming over. No, I am bringing you the meal train. No, I'm going to drive you. No, I'm going to see you. No, I'm coming to your house. Not like, let me know. And I think that people know when it's not like overbearing, like, no, I really don't want help. You know what I mean?
So I didn't fucking want help.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, that's the risk you're taking.
That's the risk you're taking.
In asserting yourself into the situation.
That's the risk you take. But I have realized that every single time that someone has just done it, it has helped so much. You know, instead of saying, hey, let me know if I can bring you dinner some night. I'm like, okay, yeah. Of course I'm not going to call them and go, hey, can you bring me dinner tonight? Fucking crazy. Like, I would never do that. But sometimes people go, hey, I'm dropping off Chick-fil-A at your door in an hour. And then a big bag of Chick-fil-A comes and everyone has, and it was amazing. Those are the things that, like, I'm not staying at your house. I'm not hanging out. I don't need to know about your treatment. You don't need to entertain me. I'm just dropping off Chick-fil-A in an hour.
That's right.
That has taught me a lot. Because I used to be that, hey, let me know if I can do anything for you.
It's a big lesson of advice for anybody who's watching someone else go through a trauma. That's the lesson, is assert yourself, insert yourself, hold your jokes. When Glenn Fry died, I drove straight to my dad's house.
Yeah.
And I just walked in and I just stayed. Yeah. And I sat with him all day.
Yeah.
And he dealt with a tidal wave of phone calls and emails, and it was all day. Yeah. And I sat there with him. Wow. And we didn't say much.
Yeah.
I was just there.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Yeah. I think that's also like a very mature situation to be able to put yourself into, which is being in a room with someone and not having to talk. Because usually when you get in a room with someone, you feel like you have to talk. And I feel like when you can be in a room with someone and not talk, that's huge. The silence says so much. It happened to me with my mom, right? When I was in the hospital, we would go an hour without talking. She was with me 24 hours. You're not going to sit here and talk for 24 hours. Plus, I was exhausted. I was hooked up to a ton of shit. But we would just be in the same room, and we wouldn't say a word for an hour and a half to each other. Nothing. And it's like, yeah, that's my mom, right? It's different. And it's like, it's your dad. It's different. But you can also be like that with friends. And I think that people feel like when a friend comes to the house or the friend comes to the room, like you have to be engaged 100% of the time, and you have to be talking. And then when it's weird, then you start talking about the weather. But when you can have the luxury of being able to pull that off, of not talking, it's an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
To just have someone there and know that we don't have to sit here and do this. But you're here for me. That means 1,000 times more than the conversing.
Because there are no words that can fix it.
Yeah. I have people in my family that are like that have to be talking all the time. And it gets really uncomfortable. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. Yeah. There cannot be silence.
No.
And if there's no conversation, then turn on the TV and we're going to watch a show. There has to be something happening at all times.
Yeah.
And like we said earlier, you can't control other people. So you can't control that situation. If they want to keep on talking, they're going to keep on talking. There's nothing you can do about it. Mm-hmm. It's hard, though, because then I start to dodge the situations because I don't want to be in that situation. Mm-hmm. And then that becomes an issue. Mm-hmm. And now I'm like, okay, I should ease up. But it's exhausting, you know? So that whole thing about you going to your dad's and saying we didn't even talk for a long hour or whatever, I was just there. It's like, that's rad.
I find myself doing that a lot for some reason in this lifetime. That's one of my
superpowers?
Things.
It's your superpower.
My best friend Annabelle, when her husband died in a car crash a couple years ago, her and I did our podcast together, taking us through that grief in real time of her having lost him and his best friend Max in the car.
They both passed away?
Yep. Oh. And same thing. She was taken that night that he died from her home, and she didn't return again for like a month. And when she went back to the house for the first time, I met her there, and I brought food, and I said, you don't have to talk to me. But she didn't want to sleep in the house alone. Mm-hmm. And she was living with her sister in Santa Barbara for a year after it happened. But she would return to her home once a week, and that became our thing. I would meet her there every Tuesday. We'd walk in together, literally, so she would never be in the house alone. And that's how we eased her back into the house. Mm. And I actually literally wrote in my book that I just published a whole chapter on what you just said about silence. And my grandfather, Dale, taught that to me because he rarely spoke. And I was with him, and I loved being with him in nature. He would take me fishing or whatever. And he never made small talk. Yeah. And I cherish silence now because of that. Yeah. And I rarely find people that can just sit that way.
Did you think when you were younger that it was weird?
No.
Really?
No, it was...
See, because I would have thought as a child, because you're so used to people talking and talking.
I know. I felt so safe with him. It was like such a relief. And I loved sitting with him. It was like, this is just the best thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. You were an old soul.
I guess so. I mean, I could play by myself forever. It worries me. I could be alone forever. I don't need to speak.
I'm the same way.
I could be silent for 6 months.
I love my wife, and I really do.
Of course.
But I do love being alone.
Yeah.
And I think touring has made me that way. Yeah. Because I've been forced to be alone. I started going, oh, wow, there's a lot of really awesome things that you learn about yourself and life when you're just alone. And then I really loved dirt bike riding out in the desert. I love being in nature. I don't like being around a billion people. Like, so that's why I don't like the beach, because there's 10,000 people there, right? And the ocean kind of freaks me out. I think I could drown in the ocean in a past life.
Me too.
I'm not a big ocean guy.
I'm obsessed with like maritime stuff, like ships on the ocean.
I follow on Instagram.
I am terrified of the ocean.
Like,
maybe we died together as pirates.
One-eyed Willie.
Nobody in this world makes me laugh as much as you do. And I have to laugh because even when you're at your darkest, in those moments in the hospital you're describing, you were still posting jokes on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I just thought, God damn it, he is like really living by example what you've been describing of this positive attitude and decision that you're not entertaining the unnecessary tangents that the brain can run wild with. You are sticking to what's right in front of you, and you are keeping your humor, which is humor saves lives.
Yeah, comedy can be a defense mechanism.
And I know you very well, and I know you use comedy as a defense mechanism also. It's a double-edged sword.
I've grown up around a really funny dad who's a musician. My brother is a musician who's really funny.
And you've been competing with those guys your whole life.
And I've grown up around musicians because my dad was the leader of the Disneyland Band before I was born. So I grew up in the Disneyland Band room around 30 musicians in the Disneyland Band. And it was like, musicians have a different sense of humor than the normal people, right? Yeah. That becomes your DNA. That becomes you. Mm-hmm. I don't feel that I do it as a defense mechanism. I feel that I genuinely, from birth, have been joking around and playing tricks on people because it's funny. Your dad's a great example of that. Your dad can't help himself probably more than anyone that I know. And
he's the ultimate.
He's the ultimate.
You can't tell me that it is not a deflection at points.
Oh, 100% it is, which is what I was getting to. I think genuinely, your dad and I, and my dad and my brother, are genuinely funny people that like to play jokes on people. And, you know, like my new thing that my brother and I both have been doing, and we bought these ghillie suits. You know what a ghillie suit is?
I think so.
It's a suit that like the army uses to, you look like a bush.
You're right, yeah.
And then you go to Home Depot and you buy a planter and you stand in it, and people walk around and you go,
scare the shit out of
and
people.
I've been doing that to friends lately as they've come in here.
Surprised you didn't get me.
I know, I should have. I didn't have time. You came too early. But like you know what I mean? Like that stuff, that's such childish humor. But it's so fucking funny. It's never not funny. I can sit there and watch a guy dressed up as a bush scare people on a sidewalk. I can watch it for 4 hours straight and still laugh.
You've been such a light in my life with comedy and humor. God damn it.
Thanks, Liz.
You're my best friend.
I know. I feel the same.
I'm your best friend.
I know. I'm your best friend, and I'm really funny.
You are.
No, you know, it's funny. It's like, you know, sometimes you connect with people. Sometimes you don't with anyone. No, I'm being serious. You can never choose who you're going to connect with.
No.
Like, there's been people that I've really wanted to connect with and did not.
Me too.
And you're like, that was a bummer.
Oh, damn it. Why didn't that work out?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's other people that you can sit in silence with, and there's just no explaining it.
I love that old phrase, I'd rather have 4 quarters than 100 pennies.
I never heard that.
And that's how I look at friends. You're one of my quarters.
Yes. 50-cent piece?
Ooh.
Dollar coin?
Silver dollar? Silver dollar? There's certain people that you look back and you go, over half of my life I've been friends with this person, and I think it's a gift to have that. I know a lot of people that don't, and I can tell they wish they did, but they don't know how. I don't know if you call it a skill. I mean, there is skill to it, right? It's like when you go to kindergarten, you got to be taught not to bite and scratch other kids. You know what I mean? You have to learn not to hit people and punch people and bite people. That's what kids do. They scratch.
That's how you solve problems.
That's how you solve problems. You scratch them and bite them and hit them. In life, there are those same lessons as an adult. there is a skill to it. And once you figure it out, life's a lot easier.
Yeah, it's called curiosity about other people.
Yeah, or being kind.
Asking questions and getting to know each other.
Like respect.
I know. Anything to leave everyone with as we wrap this up? Or have we said it all?
Don't major in minor things.
That's it.
I was going to put that on my headstone. Don't major in minor things. Don't major in minor keys. Yeah, I think that'll be my takeaway.
Literal takeaway from fast food.
Yeah. Are you hungry?
Let's
I'm hungry. All right, let's go.
Go to Taco Bell.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Okay.
This has been another episode of The Joyful Life Guide, and I am your host, Lucy Walsh. Keep in touch on socials. I'm at The Lucy Walsh. You can follow Jason Freese at The Real Jason Freese. Please rate, review, like, pass on this podcast, and join my coaching programs at lucywalsh.com. See you soon. Mwah.